serious. Alright. I'm leaving that in, by the way. Welcome back, everybody. So today we're going to sit and talk about something a little different, but also kind of serious. Again, I've got Mrs. Country here with me. And we're going to kind of talk about her journey, her process, and events that have kind of shaped her thoughts and feelings on guns. One of the first things I did for our first date, I laid out everything that could have potentially been controversial, and one of the things I said was, I'm a gun guy, and if you make me choose, I'm choosing the guns. And how did you react to me being a gun guy when we started dating?
It didn't faze me.
Yeah, so she's not anti-gun, she's not, guns make me uncomfortable, you have to, you know, do X, Y, Z, keep them unloaded, keep them all locked up, all this, blah, blah, blah. She's not like that. So that kind of gives you that baseline. Now, before we started dating, before you met me, what was your experience with guns?
I didn't have any experience with guns. I mean, I blindly was handed a gun to shoot and didn't understand how to properly hold the gun. I didn't know the safety rules. I didn't know anything.
So they basically said, here's the gun, it's loaded, the bullets come out that end, and there's the target.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's exactly my experience.
And sadly, that's not super uncommon. I want to make this video today to talk about several things. I know a lot of guys, a lot of gun guys, are trying to figure out how to get their wives into guns and you know, maybe to carry or whatever. And maybe your wife or significant other, whatever, started from a different place. Maybe they were very anti-gun, or they're just uncomfortable, but they're okay with you owning them, whatever. So I kind of wanted to share our story and her experiences and her stories to kind of give you guys a bit of a, I don't know, just another perspective, I guess, and try to think of some different ways to have that conversation. So before me, you had shot a gun, but you knew nothing about them. Did you want to own a gun, or?
Before you, I did want to own a gun, but I felt that I needed to understand and respect the gun before I could own a gun. Okay. That was my thought process about it. I didn't want to just blindly own a gun and not understand how it worked or anything like that.
Why? Can you explain why you felt that way?
Because I didn't want to be dangerous or irresponsible with the gun.
Okay. So, I mean, I've told you, we've had this conversation, and to be fair, this is kind of a baited interview because I know the answers to these questions, but trying to get her to put it in her own words for you guys. I really applaud that thought process and that decision-making, if you will. I mean, she wanted to own a gun. She was old enough to go buy a gun. She had the money to buy a gun, but she didn't just go buy a gun. And I think that's really smart. Because a gun is just like anything else. Yeah, sure, having it's great, but if you don't know how to use it, it's dangerous to you too, right? Like it's a two-way street kind of thing. And having that understanding, it's just like driving a car. If I've never driven a car, I don't know how to drive a car, but I go buy a car so that I have a car, that could be very dangerous to me or other people around me, right? So it's the same idea. And then when we met and we went shooting for the first time, do you remember when I took you shooting?
Mm-hmm.
How did that go?
Not very good.
Why?
I had a lot of anxiety about shooting. I remember having a panic attack.
And was it because there were other people? Because we went with friends. There was another couple there with us. Was it because they were around? Was it because of me? Was it because it's a gun and it's a scary thing? A combination? What was it?
I think it's because people are around and I'd never shot before, or I wasn't fully comfortable to, I don't know, shoot around other people. And okay. So I think that made me nervous.
Okay, so kind of the same thing for some people, me included, going to the gym, you know, other people are around there. You feel like they're watching you and judging you the whole time. kind of the same thing, would you say?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just so you guys know, the gun I was having her shoot was a Henry lever action 22. So no recoil, big long gun, very hard to accidentally, turn and point at somebody. Pretty much the safest gun you can hand a new shooter. But the gun wasn't the problem with her. It was the environment. It was her lack of understanding and knowledge. And we talked about gun stuff before we went, right?
Mm-hmm.
This wasn't another, here's a gun, it's loaded,
Mm-mm.
point it that way. We went over safety. We went over how the gun worked. We went over a bunch of different stuff. And there was still that hesitancy and that fear of being around other people, possibly being dangerous, of looking stupid, all that stuff. And I've talked a bit about the looking stupid thing before. That's one of the things I really think we as a community should do better, because there are people like her who get into this and then they go to the range and it's like they're going to the gym. Everybody's judging them. Everybody's doing way better than them. They clearly know what they're doing because they have a bunch of guns and they're out there with their friends shooting, which isn't always necessarily the case, by the way. They don't always know what they're doing. But you feel like they do, and you feel like you're being judged, and it's not necessarily a very welcoming environment. So she's a huge part of the reason why I would like that paradigm to change in our community. Now, fast forward a bit, we went to the range a few more times, just me and you, because we talked afterwards, and I didn't just go and tell me if any of this is wrong, or tell them if any of this is wrong. I didn't just get upset and get frustrated and mad that she wasn't shooting, because the rest of the day she pretty much just kind of stood around or sat in the car. She didn't shoot again. And I didn't get frustrated with her. I didn't get emotional or angry or anything like that. We had a conversation later after she had calmed down. It was just two of us, and I asked what was going on, and that's when I figured out, oh, well, maybe shooting around other people for her is not a good idea because she's gonna clam up. So then we went a bunch of times, just me and you.
Mm-hmm.
And how did that go? Like the first couple of times, how did you feel? Kind of walk us through that a little bit.
Well, to start, I'm stubborn, so
she's married to me. She kind of has to be.
So I fought him a couple times on certain things I needed to do and certain things that he was trying to have me practice, and I thought they were not necessary, and so I would fight you on them. And then I started realizing that that practice was allowing me to get better, and I stopped fighting you on them.
Okay. So got to the point where she was more comfortable. I mean, she was comfortable being around guns, but she was more comfortable handling guns. Anytime I would be at work late or, out for the weekend or on a trip or whatever, I would leave a gun for her to use. I would leave it in a holster, loaded, ready to go. Because she's never had the mentality or an issue with the thought process of having to use a gun to defend her life, right?
Mm-mm.
That's never been a problem for you. Now, yes, granted, you can say, and I would even say that when you're in that situation, things can be different. Fight, flight, or freeze. I get it. That's all one thing. But in a setting like this, she's not. I don't know if that's for me. I'm not sure. She's never had that problem, and I guess I shouldn't say problem. I'm going off on a little bit of a sidetrack, but if you are a logical, reasonable person and you sit and think about the prospect of owning a gun for self-defense, and you go through your moral compass and your ethics and your thought process, and you realize, you know what, that's not something for me. I'm not willing to take a life, potentially, period. Whatever's going on, that's not something I can handle. And you decide not to buy a gun, I have no issue with that. I don't think you're a pansy or a pussy or a shitty person or any of that. I think that is a mature thought process, and I commend you for going through that thought process and actually being an adult and making a very serious decision on whether or not to have a gun and whether or not it's for you. But she's not there. She's already made the thought process and made the decision that, yeah, I think I'm okay with that, and I think I should have a gun. You said you wanted a gun. Did you ever have a desire to carry a gun? Did you just want it to like take out to the range for fun? Did you want it for home defense? What was your reasoning for wanting a gun?
Home defense.
Okay, so you wanted it not to take around with you, you know, carry in the car, carry in the purse, carry on you, just to keep yourself safe at home.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that's a pretty common thing. A lot of people who have concealed carry licenses, a lot of times they won't have their gun with them. They won't take it in the car. They'll keep it on the nightstand by the bed for home defense, and that's where it lives. And again, if you've gone through that thought process and that's where you are, there's nothing wrong with that. But I would say keep your mind open to things changing, because you were pretty adamant about that. You were like, I don't know if I ever want to carry a gun. Mm-hmm. Pretty adamant about it. But things can change. And that's where we're going to get now. So what happened recently to kind of change your mind and your thought process on guns and carrying and all that?
You want me to talk about what happened at work?
Yeah.
Okay. I am a human resource manager at my current position, and we let an employee go. And I walked that employee back to her area to get her things. At that point, her son entered to help her, and was very angry at the fact that his mother had been let go. He decided that it would be appropriate to get in my face and cuss me out, not once, but twice, making me feel very uncomfortable. I was unaware that at the time that he was acting very erratic and very angry, that he was carrying a loaded gun in his back. I had walked back to my office and was very uncomfortable, and found out through my boss that he could not get this man to leave. He was acting very erratic and was on his cell phone, refusing to leave the building. We threatened the cops, and that's at that point when I found out that he was carrying a gun. And at that point, my work environment became very unsafe for me.
So she texted me and told me about all of this, and luckily I had kind of finished up what I needed to do for the day at work, because I was at work too. And it was about noon or so when I found out about this, and I was able to leave and go there and basically be there and you know, keep an eye out and keep her safe just in case, because everybody working there was worried he was going to come back.
Yes.
And I would have too. She was telling me the day that it happened that this guy was, you know, carrying boxes out to the car and walking very abruptly past people, almost hitting them with the boxes. They had to move quickly to avoid being sideswiped. Just being kind of a douche. And I'm very glad that the guy didn't come back. Don't get me wrong, I don't ever want to be in that situation. But I went there to be there for her and help her feel safe. You took a couple days off after that, right? Mm-hmm. Just in case, you know, he stewed on it for a little while and decided to come back and do something. So that's what kind of... Where did your mind go from there? From wanting a gun for home defense and that's it, to what changed, I guess?
Where my office and my boss's office is, we are in a corner, and
right next to a door to enter the building, and lots, I mean, it's an office building, so it's all, that whole wall is all window.
And we have a long hallway to walk down to escape if we needed to. But at that point, if somebody was to enter that door, we would not have a way to escape. And my thought was that I had no way to protect myself except for hide under my desk if that situation came.
All right, so you were saying before the issues that this guy came in and all this stuff happened at work and you didn't feel comfortable at work. Right?
Yes.
Now, did you ever kind of, and this is common too, did you ever kind of have that feeling or that thought process of, yeah, this stuff happens, but it's not going to happen to me. It's not going to happen where I am. I don't go to those kinds of places. I don't do those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like 100%.
100%.
Yeah. So people will say, oh, you're crazy for carrying a gun. You're crazy for carrying a knife. You're crazy for doing this and that. It's never going to happen. Or, oh, yeah, sure, no, it's on the news. This kind of stuff happens, but it's never going to happen to me. Where we lived before here, when we would go, out of town or we'd go do whatever, I'd carry my gun or my guns, and then I would usually keep a rifle in the truck, right? And you thought that was a little excessive, a little overboard. Do you still think that? Be honest.
Not so much, only because kind of where we live now, and knowing that school shootings have happened here, not so much. Do I still have the mindset that, oh, it's not going to happen where we're at? Sometimes.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, you can try to work in a safer area. You can try to, live in a nice neighborhood or whatever. Stuff still happens. We live in a pretty decent neighborhood, but we have the Neighbors app through Ring, and every so often, maybe once, twice a week, maybe more often, you'll see, burglary was reported, or people breaking into cars, breaking into houses, weird people just come up and looking at people's houses, casing the place, essentially. So you just heard it. It's really easy to be that normal person, to have that mindset. It's not going to happen to me. I don't need to do this. I don't need to do that. It's never going to happen to me. But the reason we train, I carry, the reason that I have the mindset and the thought process that I do is it can happen to me. Things have happened to me. Things have happened to her that, never thought were going to happen before. So now where are you as far as guns go?
I want to go shooting more. I want to get my concealed carry license.
Okay.
And now I am more comfortable taking my gun in the truck with me, or mainly in the truck, not
okay, so you have a gun now.
Yes.
Okay, whereas you didn't have one before all this happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so this happened. She came to me and she said, hey, I kind of want to get a gun. I want to go shooting. I want to do this. So we went and we bought her a gun. Now we're not going to tell you what we got her. That's going to be a separate video. We're actually going to do a full review. Both me and her will review that gun for you guys. Me knowing a lot about guns, I mean, that's my hobby. So I research guns. I like to shoot lots of different guns, and thinking about it kind of from her perspective of, she's a new shooter. She's a woman with smaller hands. She's not as used to recoil. I took all these kinds of factors into account, went to a gun counter and picked out a few guns, and I said, okay, look at these guns. Take them in your hand, feel them, tell me what you think. And she picked up one, the first one, she's like, this feels really good, I like this. Held a couple others and she was like, it's a gun, it's okay. So that immediately told me we're going with the first one, because she likes it. She already felt a connection with it. She felt comfortable. And like she said, now she wants to get her concealed carry license. She wants to carry it around with her, not just here in the house. So we're going out to the range and shooting, having her shoot. She's only shooting her gun. She's not shooting any other gun, so she can get really used to and familiar with that gun. We'll talk more about what we chose for her and why exactly we chose that gun later, and also what I'm thinking right now for a concealed carry gun, because the gun we got is more of a full-ish size, home defense size handgun, not so much a concealed gun, especially for her, somebody her size. But yeah, so you're at that point now where this one event has completely changed your thought process on wanting to carry a gun.
Yeah.
And I'm not happy that this happened to her at all by any means, but I'm very happy that now she wants to carry that gun. She wants to be responsible for her own safety, because you really are responsible for your own safety.
Mm-hmm.
When seconds count, the cops are only minutes away. And, you know, in the meantime, you could be your own first responder. I know it's cliche, but it's true. And I'm not always around, right? Like, we work at two separate places, so it could fall to her. So now you've got your own gun. What processes are you going through, are we going through to kind of get you used to not just shooting the gun, but having the gun around? What are we doing? What's going on?
Well, for starters, having the gun, having me be aware of the gun with me throughout the house. Not just having it stay in one area. And
so by that, she means, like, at night when we go to bed, I have my pistol on my nightstand. Hers is on her nightstand. We get up in the morning, that gun, she takes it, and she'll either put it in the vehicle, because where we live, it is legal to have the gun in the vehicle, even if you don't have a concealed carry license. She'll either do that, or she'll put it in the safe, depending on the day. You know, some days are a little different. It's still new to her, so she is still getting used to it. If she comes downstairs, it comes down with her, and if she's sitting on the couch watching TV, it's sitting right there, and it's loaded. So there's a loaded magazine. It's got a round in the chamber. It is in a holster, just to keep everything nice and safe, and, you know, just in case kind of stuff. But we're kind of getting her used to it. You know, she'll take it into the kitchen with her, or to the bathroom, or whatever. Just kind of being aware of the gun and keeping it on your brain. Because before, like, when I would leave you a gun, when I would go to work or whatever, you would forget it was sitting wherever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you wouldn't think about it. It would be sitting next to your side of the bed or next to my side of the bed the whole day. Mm-hmm. You would leave the house sometimes and just leave it sitting there. Mm-hmm. And go do stuff because she didn't think about it. Now she thinks about it enough to, I mean, every now and then, yes, she'll still forget. You know, she's tired at night, it's late at night, we're going to bed late. She'll forget and leave it on the couch every now and then, and I'll go grab it. But for the most part, she's really good at remembering this stuff. I mean, if she's going to go out with friends, or, you know, run to the store or something, she'll either put it in the safe, or she'll take it in the vehicle with her, just because she's used to it. And are getting more used to it. We're going to get her a holster, because what did you say to me while I was in Hawaii?
I'd like to get a belt and be able to carry the gun around the house, so that I don't have to remember to take it to each room with me, because sometimes I do forget to leave it.
Yeah, and I'll do that. You know, if I'm just sitting, I'm wearing sweatpants or something, and I've got a gun sitting on the end table next to me on the couch, and I get up to go to the bathroom, I won't think about taking it with me to the bathroom. And sure, not necessarily a huge deal. I mean, nothing's ever happened to me inside my own house, but at the same time, if something did happen, if somebody broke down that door or something, now I'm separated from my gun, and they may actually be closer to it than me. So little things to think about. I mean, when are you the most vulnerable, right? When your pants are around your ankles, or when you're naked? So when you're taking a poop, when you're in the shower, stuff like that. You know, sometimes it's easy to just, no, it's fine where it is, but you don't have convenient access to it. And that's the kind of mentality that we're working on. But she wants to carry the gun around the house on her body. And I think that's huge, because it's not a huge gun, it's not a tiny gun, but it's not light. I mean, it does have some weight to it for somebody like her who's not used to guns. So wanting to strap that weight on, walk around the house with it, carrying it, you know, as somebody who's a comfort person, right? Like, when you don't have to go to work, you like to wear sweatpants or leggings or whatever, you like to wear hoodies. So kind of going through that mental checklist, if you will, of, okay, I'm willing to accept having to wear jeans with belt loops, having to wear a belt, which you don't really wear belts, having to remember to put this gun on this belt and walking around with it. That's a shift for her. That's something new. But you know, everybody's journey and path and thought process is different based on different experiences and different reasoning. But I wanted to kind of take this time to sit and have this chat with her for you guys who may be thinking about getting into carrying or trying to get your spouse into carrying a gun, and just hear her perspective, essentially. Because I can tell you all day long, oh yeah, when I first started carrying, I was nervous, this and that, whatever. But every video you see me in, I have a gun. So it's old hat for me. It's not old hat for you. It is a very new thing for her. And I'm trying to help her with what I do know and with my experiences of, hey, I think we should do this, I think we should do that. But you also need to take into account, she's a different person than me. Yes, she's a woman, and that's a whole other thing because different body types and sizes and hand sizes and all that stuff. But she's a woman. She's going to have different thoughts on things. Take that aside, she's still a different person. You take another dude that's the same size as me, they're still going to have different thought processes and different desires and wants and needs based on their everyday life, their whatever. It's going to be different, and that's why there's so many gun choices on the market, because everybody's different. Everybody wants something different. So if you're a husband and your wife is, you know, interested in the idea, don't just shove stuff down her throat and say this is what you need because I think this is what's best. Give her the option. Take her to a range, let her rent 20, 30 guns and shoot them all. And she can, not necessarily I like this gun, but I liked this about this gun and this about this gun and this and this, and then you can go through that process of finding the right gun for them. There are guns I have that I won't let her shoot because they are too small, too lightweight, too snappy. And when you go to a gun store counter, I talk about this in my gun store rant video that I did a while back. Most of the time, the guy behind the counter sees a woman, he's going to say, well, you need this tiny little J-frame with these pink handles, or you need this little pink 380 that has no sights and is super tiny, but you're a woman, so that's what you need. It's bullshit. Let them decide what they need. You can help guide that journey, and I think that's what I've been doing, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you've been the one coming to me saying, I want a gun. I want to carry it around the house. I like this gun. I like this. I like that. We went out to the range. I got the Hudson, and she hasn't shot that yet. We took it out to the range at the same time she was shooting her pistol, and she told me before all this happened that she wanted to shoot it because it was a heavy 9mm and it felt good in her hand, and she thought she wanted to shoot it. I gave her the option. She said, no, I'm going to stick with my gun because I want to learn my gun. And I think that's really smart. That's a really good way to approach it. But yeah, just listen to what they have to say. If you're helping somebody new to guns figure out something with a gun, give them lots of options and let them pick what they want to carry or want to have, or what kind of holster they like or whatever. You know, be an enabler, not a teller or a forcer, if you will. I'm really happy about the way this journey is going for her, and I'm really excited to see how much of a badass she becomes over the next year, 2 years, and just, you know, excited that I get to be a part of that with her. We went out to the range that day. You remember the bowling pins? Mm-hmm. How did your day start on the range that day? We started with paper. Now, how big was your group? On paper at, like, what, 5 yards? 5 yards?
I don't actually remember.
It was about yay big. Right? It was pretty big and it was with her pistol. Pretty decent size, you know, big group. And that always kind of discourages you. Mm-hmm. When you do have some vision problems, you know, with nearsightedness and different lighting conditions and stuff, but it's really easy for a new shooter to get discouraged when they go out to the range. You're not shooting well. How does it make you feel when we go out and I'm shooting how I shoot and then you shoot right next to me?
I get frustrated, but I have to understand that I'm still new.
Okay. Yes, you have that, again, she has that mentality of, I have to understand I'm new. It's a skill. I have to work on this. I have to put in the time and the effort. Not everybody's going to feel that way.
No, but I'm a very logical person, though. Yes. I think very logically. So for me to think that way is normal for me, not for everybody else.
Yeah.
But
and you're at that point too, where you've had enough experience with guns to know that it's not just point and shoot. It's not. A lot of people will go buy a gun, they'll load it, and they'll never shoot it. Oh, I'm good. I've got a gun. That's all I need. Would that work for you?
No.
Would that work for anybody?
No.
Because it's a skill. It's something you have to develop and work on. But people who don't know guns don't understand that. So going through, and when we shoot, and when you start out, if you get discouraged or you get frustrated, you handle it well, and I just kind of back off, let you do your thing. If she wants to walk away for a minute or sit down or take a second to think about it, that's fine. Again, don't be that guy that gets frustrated or demanding with the person you're taking to the range, significant other or not. If they're not doing well, be patient with them. Give them the time and the space to figure it out, because that's one really good way to turn somebody off from guns entirely and to take them out of our community. And we don't want that. I said before, we all start from zero, all right? So understand that this new person is starting from zero or possibly just above zero, and you have to be that person to help them improve in a positive environment. But then by the end of the day, we were shooting bowling pins. How did that go?
That was fun.
See? You see that face? She loves the bowling pins. And the bowling pins are great, just like steel, because it's a reactive target. She gets instant feedback on how she did. A lot of new shooters and even experienced shooters will shoot. How'd I do? Oh, okay. Shoot again. How'd I do? Instead of just shooting and then going and looking and correcting. And in a defensive handgun, that's what you want. You want to have your skills down enough that you fire and then you go, oh, yep, no, threw that one. I knew I threw that one. But that's a pretty good group otherwise. That's where we're getting there. So an hour and a half later, we had 6 bowling pins set up at 10 yards, and you were knocking them over almost every round. I mean, except for that one that was like off in the corner and it was a weird angle for you. You were kicking ass. It was kind of sexy. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. There was also the time that she put the holster on and was hanging out.
Yeah, okay.
And yeah, so but you can see it's a lot of fun, right? Like, she's having fun just sitting here talking about it, and it's making me happy and proud too. Yes, it's a serious topic. What happened at her work was serious. Carrying a gun, the decision to be ready and willing and able to defend your life and the lives of the people that you love is a serious conversation. But that doesn't mean this can't be a fun journey. And if you weren't having fun, would you keep going back?
No.
Why? It's serious. It's important. I mean, it's a very important thing.
But, well, if you were getting angry with me and making me feel more discouraged about how I was shooting, for me, it would turn me off. I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to keep going to. Because there's no point. I don't want to keep getting yelled at.
What if the gun hurt to shoot? What if it had a lot of recoil? It was too tiny. It jumped around in your hand a lot.
I wouldn't want to shoot the gun. I'd be asking to shoot a different gun.
Yeah. And if that was the first gun you had ever shot, you would think, oh, well, that's all guns are going to shoot like that, and they're all going to suck. So I don't want to do this.
Not necessarily for me, but I can see that with other people. I would want to shoot another gun to see if I'm going to get the same reaction from that gun, but I wouldn't want to continue to shoot that gun.
Yeah. And so with the tiny guns that I've shown you, I mean, I've shown her my Kel-Tec P3AT, my Kel-Tec PF9, Glock 42, Glock 43, Smith & Wesson Shield, a lot of more small, like typical concealed carry guns, smaller guns like that. And she hasn't shot any of them, but she's seen me shoot some of them. Did it surprise you when I first told you that those smaller guns were actually worse? The very first time that we were talking about all this. It surprised you the smaller guns kicked harder?
Yes.
Okay. because they're small, right? They look like they should be easy to handle. They're cute. They're tiny. They're unimposing.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the bigger guns, you were like, I'm afraid of that. That's big. That seems bad. Right?
I would think that the bigger guns would have more of a recoil. Like
Okay.
It would hurt.
But then when I explained the concept of the physics and this gun weighs more, so it's going to, you know, I explained all of that. Did it make sense to you?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so when you talk about these things, keep all this stuff in mind. A lot of times a bigger gun is better for a newer shooter or a female shooter, a new female shooter especially. That's the only other real point I wanted to make. Is there anything else you want to say about this topic? Okay, well, I guess with that, that's all I really got for you guys today. Hopefully this gave you guys some insight into kind of our journey. I hate to keep using that word, but that's really what it is. It's a process. And maybe it gives you some ideas with your significant other, your friend from work, your mom, your sister, your kid, whatever it may be in your life, and maybe some ideas of how to make the process smooth and effective and fun for everybody. If you guys did like the video, please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button down below, share it with your friends. Hopefully they get something out of it too. And we can continue to grow this community and bring more people into the fold of gun owners. Because I am happy to say that my wife is now a gun owner. And I can't wipe the grin off my face when I think about it. So I want other people to feel that too. Thanks again for watching, guys. Y'all take it easy. Roll Tide. And I'll see you later.